Welcome to RetroUpgrade. This time we'll be doing something different. We're going to repair this armchair I found outside. It's completely destroyed. It looks like a scratch board for a cat. As you can see, the result is really amazing, and I'm using commonly available materials. As you can see, it's nice and soft and plump. It looks like real leather. Things you'll need is wall paint, fabric softener, sandpaper, some lacquer, and a hairdryer optionally to speed up the drying process in between. As you can see, it's really rough. It's let go of all the fake leather, but only on the flexible surfaces. As you can see here, it sanders off quite easily, but on the sides it doesn't come off. So that's good. I can leave that as is. As you can see here, the flexible sides or flexible surfaces just peel off. 99% went off really easily. It took a while still because I'm doing it by hand. My little helper just disappeared. She found some beetles she wanted to play with. She's running around here. As you can see here, it takes a little while to do this, but it's well worth the result afterwards. It's hard to keep track of the little one while making a video. As you can see here on the shadow, this takes longer than you think. The shadow moves quite fast. The sun is going down here, so this process took about 3 days because of the dry time in between. And I have to make dinner and stuff for the kid, so yeah, I have some extra excuses. I had to find positions to sand in between and stuff. Here's the finished result of the sanding. It looks pretty good. It has like a chalk based paint, so it's kind of dusty, so you should vacuum this. As you can see here, there's a small rip I found underneath. The chalk paint is actually a normal thing they use to make fake leather. I missed a spot underneath. I remove it later, so underneath the main pillow. The reason I picked this up from the street was because the mechanism was okay. It opens and closes fine. It didn't smell funny or anything. I sprayed it down with alcohol and gave it a bath in alcohol when I brought it home. It weighs a ton, so it's good quality. So what you need to do this? You need some wall paint, preferably in the color you want. I opted to go with some white wall paint, matte wall paint, and some pigments. This didn't turn out exactly as I wanted because I wanted red and I got pink, but more on that later. And some fabric softener. Choose the sensitive type so it doesn't smell as strong, because every time you sit down it releases a little bit of smell. I don't know how long that lasts. You need some paint brushes. Also, I made a small swatch with the mix, and as you can see here, it's really flexible and it doesn't crack or anything, and it doesn't scrape, so it doesn't discolor or color your clothes when you sit down on it. That's the important part. My little helper is always there with me when I'm doing stuff. It's good because that makes her curious and wants to fix stuff as well. As you can see, it doesn't scratch off at all, so it's perfect for this kind of work. Okay, so I'm using the white paint with some pigments, and the mix is 50-50 with this fabric softener. I used 2 cups of the same size and I filled them up to the same point and then just mix it together. I'm using her baby food cups we bought when she was little. They have measurements on them, so it makes it a little easier. I'm being a little too thorough here. You don't need to be this exact. Actually, a little more fabric softener won't hurt it, it just makes it thicker. The reason this works is because the fabric softener, for some reason, thickens up the paint to a consistency of pudding, I guess. And it makes it emulsify, so it's instead of being hard and crackly, usually when you paint fabrics with normal paint it cracks. This makes it elastic, so it polymerizes the paint. Now I mix the color in first. I don't think it matters, but when you mix in the fabric softener, it thickens up the mix. So it makes it harder to work with. So it's easier to just mix in the pigment first in the paint. My little helper here, not aware of the camera. She's just 4 years old, so it's not that strange. But still, I have to keep telling her to move. Mixing the paint. If you do it in the paint can, it's a lot easier. You can use a paint mixer as well. But this works. A small paint tray and some paint brushes do the job. I wanted red, but it became pink. Almost the bimbo pink, fuchsia I think it's called. Yeah, my girlfriend didn't mind. She wanted red, but she liked the color at the end. And it won't be this strong because in the second layer I reduced the pigment type. I put some red and some browns to make it a little more skin. This was way too pink for my taste, but she liked it, so the kid wants to help out, but it's really hard to squeeze out the pigment from the tube here, so I'm doing it. Trying to make it as red as possible, but didn't work out. If you want a specific color, just buy the paint pre-mixed and you shouldn't have an issue. Be aware that if you mix in fabric softener with a color, it will probably dilute the color a little bit. I'm using white, so it makes it a little lighter in color. Not at all much, but enough to be noticeable. So be aware of that when you're mixing. As you can see here, the mix is starting to get really vibrant color. So that's good. The amount you need for an ArmChair is about 250 milliliters. That's a quarter liter. It's not that bad. It's for one layer. So you need at least 1 liter to make this work. Now mixing in the fabric softener, it just floats on the top, so it doesn't look like it's going to mix. So you just have to keep going, and then suddenly it looks clumpy and nasty and gross. Then you know it's working. As you can see here, it looks like paste almost. But just keep going until you get a smooth consistency. Actually, having it clumpy doesn't really matter. It still works. But as you can see, it's floating on top still. So I'm just keeping on it until it gets smooth. I'll link to the projects I saw on the internet doing the same thing with other armchairs and other furniture. They're a really interesting watch. I saw this project in internet like 10 years ago on a forum thread that you could make your own fake leather, and I forgot about the project until I found this chair and I remembered I've heard that you can fix them. So I went to YouTube and found a few videos, and they were really informative. They use different blends, but pretty much the same. My little helper's head again. As you can see, the consistency is now creamy instead of watery, so this is exactly what you want. And the color didn't degrade too much. It get a little lighter because of the fabric softener is white. I don't know the chemistry behind the emulsification process. Logic dictates that if you put something liquid inside another thing that's liquid, it usually makes it more liquid. But in this case, it just gets thicker. So if you put in more fabric softener than a 50-50 mix, let's say a 25-75, you get a little clumpier mess, but it sticks better to the fabric. Okay, let's start trying it out. You just paint it as normal, like you do with a wall. My little helper here is painting all over the place, but it does help a little bit. She covered a nice piece. Sorry for the zoom in, zoom out. I forgot to turn off the auto zoom function on my phone. I'm using my cell phone to film this outside. I'll do a small time lapse of the painting process because this gets boring really fast. You see the shiny parts that I didn't remove, the old leather? Okay, that's really hard to paint over. So I would recommend to buying leather repaint paint, or the shoe shine paints you can buy to repair shoes if you find the right color. But it does cover it, it just takes a lot of layers. I initially did 2 layers in this project, and I noticed it started peeling in some places. So actually you should do 4. As you can see here, it covers quite well. It's white, and here I noticed it's way too pink for my liking. So I went to the shop and got some other pigments just to make the second layer a little more tolerable. As you can see, it looks nice. I've missed some spots, but that's fine. I went over with a small paintbrush later. It was just getting late and the sun was going down, and I wanted to leave it to dry. As you can see here, it's still soft. It doesn't really crack. Sorry for the bad angle. But it's starting to crease like leather. So that's a really good sign. Here's my girlfriend is checking out. And no paint. So this is really good. Now I jump to the second coat. Here's the second coat. I used a pink with some brown in it to make it a little more skin colored, and it looks amazing. It looks blotchy, but that's because it hasn't dried fully on some places yet. It's actually quite smooth. As you can see here, it looks like leather from far away. Somewhat old leather, so I will use some polish compound on it for leather or lacquers. I'm zooming in here so you can see the texture, and it looks like leather because it cracks, but it still holds its shape. So it's really nice. And it's soft. It's as soft as a real leather chair. Still has some firmness to it because the paint is quite thick. This is only 2 layers. I would recommend 4. Now for what I use as a lacquer, I went to the shop and bought some shoe polish lacquers that are transparent. This is just normal lacquer. If you can find it for leather in bigger bottles, do it. This is a cream, does the same thing, comes with a little sponge. I ended up using all of these just to put on 2 layers. As you can see here, I'm working my ass off again. But it transforms the chair completely. As you can see, the blotchy areas disappear doing this. This took a little while to do, and I recommend doing 3 layers of this as well, because like I said, the first time I tried this, I just did 2, and it started to peel off in some very specific areas where you rub a lot. So 4 layers of paint and 3 layers of this varnish, and you should be fine. But it looks amazing. Look, it's like fake leather. I wouldn't say it's like real leather because I have a real leather chair inside and it feels a little bit different, but it's really close. Even the sound when you squeeze it sounds like leather. I missed some spots, but this is for our use only at home, for my girlfriend. Sorry for the lack of videos lately. I've been working my ass off in my new job. I'm going to pump up production now. Thank you for watching this video. If you like what you see, consider helping on Patreon or subscribing. That helps a lot. Thank you. Bye.